got a really phenomenal box here that I won in an auction. I spent $750 on this, and I'm hoping that we're able to get about $1,500 or more in value out of this by the end. So let's go ahead and open up the box and see what we got inside. And if you're new here, hi, my name's Kevin. And this is actually my full-time job, is buying and selling used digital cameras. I've been doing that for 7 years full-time now, and more than 10 years part-time. So I'm gonna go ahead and set it on the ground and we'll get started right away. So this is one of the more expensive untested camera lots that I've gotten in recent times. And I'm hoping that, as per usual, we'll have at least 80% that are working, and we'll be able to get to that target, hopefully, of around $1,500 in value. Okay, let's start with camera number one. And we have a Canon Powershot A640 Digicam here. This is a 10 megapixel camera with a 4x optical zoom. This Canon A640 was released in 2006. It's got a CCD sensor, and it has a tilt and swiveling LCD screen as well. Pretty unusual for the time. Recessed all the way back. And this particular camera appears to be in really great shape. So with these untested camera lots, depending on the pictures and how many there are, sometimes there's not a whole lot of details, and that was the case in this one. So I don't really know exactly the condition of a lot of the cameras that I'm getting today. And I spent maybe a little bit too much. We'll find out by the end of the video if I ended up profiting on this lot, but I think I may have overspent a little bit. We do have a memory card in there, and this camera takes AA batteries. All right, we got AA batteries in there. Battery tray closes good. This camera's really in nice shape. LCD hardly has any wear. I'm hopeful that this will be working, and our first camera will be a success. Does power on. Lens super noisy. That's just par for the course with a lot of these older Canon Powershot cameras. Yeah, pretty dang noisy. But within range of a lot of Canon A640s and A650s that I've sold a lot of these. In the 7-year period that I've been doing this full time, I've sold over 25,000 digital cameras, camcorders, and lenses. And as a result of that, I've sold a lot of the more popular brands and models, including this one. So I have a pretty good history of what it's worth and what I think it would sell for. I'm going to go ahead and take this camera outside and get a few pictures in, because we are in full bloom season here in the Arizona desert. We've got brittle bush blooming, nice pretty yellow flowers. We've got our purple paint tree that I like to call it out in front that smells just phenomenal. That's also in full bloom, and I've seen more quail around this spring than I've seen in the last 7 years. When this camera came out, it actually was around a $350 price point in the United States. And it's got a Digic 2 image processor, so pretty early generation. And autofocus and face detection in this camera really isn't great. So I use it a lot for nature and for like pet photography. It's pretty small and handy and portable to shoot with. A little bit heavier than a lot of the more compact digital cameras that you'll see, and quite a bit wider. But the picture quality on this is really great. So value in its current working good condition, if I pair it with a USB cable and a memory card, you'd be looking at value of about $125 on this A640. Okay, next up. Try to reuse this bubble wrap a little bit later. I do like to reuse as much materials as I can and recycle. Uh-oh, that did not feel good in the hand. We've got a Nikon Coolpix L30, but right away it's got a broken tray, completely sheared off on the front here. It's not just a crack. So it broke right there, and it's not staying shut. This camera likely may work, but it does have corrosion inside, so I'll have to work on it a little bit later. If I can get it into working condition, you could still affix a piece of tape over the top and get it to actual shoot and take pictures. It's just kind of a pain. In good shape, you're looking at a value in the $60 to $70 range, but unfortunately with this model, no value. So this goes to one of the hazards of buying untested lots, and it's just the name of the game. There is risk involved. Ooh, all right. Next up, we've got a Canon Rebel T7 DSLR camera. And this was actually the latest budget-oriented DSLR camera that Canon released, before they largely stopped making DSLR cameras. This was released in 2018. It's a 24 megapixel camera, and I've shot with it quite a bit over the years, and I've used probably over a dozen different Canon EF and EFS lenses on it, and it takes really nice pictures. I mean, it's kind of a no frills. It doesn't look or feel great. It's kind of got this dull matte black finish. For a really budget DSLR camera, it takes nice pictures. So no battery, I'm assuming, no battery, no SD card. Physical condition looks quite good. Let's go ahead and take a look at the body and take a look at the focus screen. Sometimes you'll see focus screen scratches, which doesn't affect the actual picture quality, but it is something I would mention because if you use the viewfinder to take pictures, you'll see some scratches or wear on the focus screen. And the glass looks good. This is not the kit lens. I think the kit lens was the 3 version. This is an IS lens, which is still a decent lens. Hopefully the autofocus is working. And this camera uses the LPE10 battery, and I've got some batteries over here. So I'll pull one out. I think that's, yeah, LPE10. Because I sell so many cameras, I have charged batteries available for almost all of them, which makes shooting these videos a lot easier than if I would have to buy a camera charger or battery on eBay or Amazon and get it shipped to me. So making these videos is fortunately pretty easy in terms of access to batteries. It does power on and looks to be in good shape. So whenever I'm testing a DSLR camera, I'm going to test in both manual and auto. We're going to make sure the flash is firing and shoot in a couple different modes as well. Very snappy, very fast. Focus is working well. Flip it to manual, go to manual mode, and let's go ahead and do that. Okay, that looks good. And the flash was firing. So this camera is in good working shape. If you pair this with a charger and a USB cable, you're looking at a value in the $275 to $300 range, but given the overall really nice condition of this body, I would put it closer to $300. There is still value in used older DSLR cameras depending on the model. Earlier generation Canon models like the Rebel XT normally sells for around $75 with a lens. But as you go up in generation and you get newer and newer, they start to retain more and more of their original value normally. Now, in rare cases with early DSLR cameras, some of them were not made in huge production numbers, so there can be value in older DSLR cameras too. It's just a little bit rarer. Okay, next up, looks like a Fuji from looking through the bubble wrap. It is a Fuji. Oh, nice. Fujifilm Finepix Z100. And this is a really cool compact, I believe 8 megapixel camera. Fuji released this in 2008. And at the time, it was one of the slimmest point-and-shoot digital cameras that was on the market. As you can see, very, very slim. Came in a number of finishes, including pink and I believe black. This is kind of the silver bronze version. Pretty aesthetically pleasing. Kind of reminds me of the DMC FP8, I believe. If you've seen that camera, it has a very similar lens design where you pull down the front here, and then the lens will be exposed and turn the camera on. There is a battery in there, as well as a memory card. Let's go ahead and see if it powers on. Not too often do cameras just power on, but sometimes. Oh, it does. That's awesome. Oh, lens is working too. Sweet. Let's go ahead and try taking a picture and see if the flash works. Nope, let me make sure the flash is auto. Yeah. Wow, this is in really pretty good shape. I don't see any issues with the lens. The LCD also looks good. You're not going to get the crispest pictures, but I found the colors to be really quite vibrant, and it's a really fun camera to shoot with. So I'm going to go ahead and take this outside as well and take some pictures with it and pop them up on the screen. You'll get an idea of what I'm talking about with this camera. It's certainly gained popularity in the last few years. During the pandemic, there was a lot of interest in Digicams and Y2K camcorders, so it's kind of boosted the market, and I think still is a little bit. But this was a camera that I used to sell for $30 or $40 that's now worth about $100 with a charger, So gone up quite a bit, but in this condition, it's pretty unusual to see one in this good of condition. Condition definitely plays a factor into the overall value that I assign. If this was in really lousy condition with a lot of surface wear and LCD scratches and maybe even lens glass scratches, the value would be closer to 30 to 40. So condition is very, very important whenever I'm looking at values here. So with that camera, we're at $525 in projected value. I spent $750 on this lot. So once you factor in shipping costs and various other expenses like eBay fees, really to get to a break-even number from that $750 buy, I would need to be closer to $850 or $900 for break-even. That's why I have my target set for $1,500, because that leaves about $600 in potential profit. So let's hope we can get some value out of these next ones. Next up, I see a really old retro strap. And that leads me to believe this might be the film camera that was in the lot. And it is. Yeah, nice. Pentax K1000. This was originally released in 1976, and it actually was in production all the way through 1997. When they first started making this, they were made in Japan, and then I believe they shifted some production to Korea and Hong Kong, and then they shifted production to China at the tail end of that period. And this is a film camera that I see a lot of. Unfortunately, a lot of times the shutter's not working and it needs work. I don't do a lot of film cameras. They just kind of come along for the ride in a lot of digital camera lots that I get. So it's definitely not my focus or specialty. So rarely am I able to film test these. I will test for shutter to see if the shutter's working and generally sell it in a as-is for parts condition. Let's go ahead and take the case off of this body and take a look at just the camera itself. So physically appears to be in decent shape. We've got a Pentax M 50mm f2 kind of pancake style portrait lens on there, which I believe was one of the kit lenses that Pentax used on this camera body. And this, along with the Canon AE1 and A1, were super popular for photography classes and were some of the most mass-produced film cameras ever made. Let's see if the shutter... Oh, it does, actually. Let me see if it... Okay, wow. I know there's a battery down at the bottom, but the shutter is actually firing on this camera. There's a little bit of dust visible through the viewfinder. Pretty snappy, actually. Let's see how the lens glass looks. So what I like to do with the lens glass is actually take the lens off the body, like so, and then I have a big light over here I'm going to look at through and see if I can see any haze or mold or mildew or fungus inside of the glass. And that's going to be a potential issue, especially if you're shooting with a lot of light, and will affect the value in a pretty big way, at least for the lens value. Blades look good. There is some dust inside, so you can see I'm adjusting the blades there. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Adjusting the blades, and they move smoothly. And this is a Pentax K mount, so this would be compatible with a bunch of older Pentax K mount manual lenses. There's actually a really wide variety of not only Pentax but other third-party brands that made some pretty interesting, like 24mm lenses as well. That looks like. So that looks good. This camera, although it's not film tested, the shutter is firing, and the value of this on a website like eBay in the US is going to be around $125. If you pair it with a couple other lenses and a case, I've seen these sell for over $200 now. Certainly not the best film camera that you can get, but in terms of ease of use and simplicity and overall access, it's up there with the Canon AE1. Next up. It's like Christmas every time I open one of these. That was actually one of my very first, my very first unboxing videos has a little segment called Kevin Claus, where a bunch of cameras were shipped to me in a big black plastic trash bag, and I put them over my shoulder and I was just walking around with them. That was pretty fun. Actually comes with a charger on this one. Nice. And I've seen a lot of your comments out there. There's a number of you that own the DMC FZ50 and have said it's one of your favorite cameras to shoot with, and I've got one here. Panasonic DMC Lumix FZ50 with a Leica lens. This is an early Panasonic Brige model with a 12x optical, and it's got this cool, instead of having a traditional toggle style zoom, we've got, just like some of the Fujifilm Finepixes out there, and we've got manual focus by wire here, and we've got zoom here, out to a 420 millimeter equivalent on this lens. This is a super fun camera to shoot with if you ever have the opportunity. The prices of this on eBay haven't gone up. I don't think it's really selling for quite what it's worth yet. This was a camera that a few years ago would sell for around $50, and now used in the market, it sells for right around $100 in really good shape, like this one appears to be. So this camera is cool because it has RAW capability. It's got 16:9 and 3:2 aspect shooting. It's got ISO up to 3200. I found that it's most effective up to around 800, but the combination of the Mega OIS and the Leica branded lens makes this a really sharp lens. The fact that that 12x zoom gets you to just over 400 millimeter equivalent gives you pretty good zoom capability. It's a little bit slow to lock into focus from my experience shooting with this camera. But man, out of the camera, this has some color popping images. So let's go ahead and find a battery for it. I'm assuming there's, oh, there is one in here. Let's see if it works. Oh, it also powers on. Let's try taking a few pictures with this. It's got both an electronic viewfinder through here, which I think has like 300,000 pixels, or you can use the rear display as well. All my viewers out there, you're not lying. It takes really nice pictures. The pictures I'll pop on the screen are what I'm going to take with this, and you get an idea of what I'm talking about. It's really sharp, quite vibrant, and the fact that you can shoot f2.8 on this is really, really cool. Nice. Okay, all of that is looking great. Also has an optional hot shoe on the top, and it has this semi-articulating screen. The lens hood being there adds a little bit of value that is so often missing with this camera. So I would say the value of this is going to be in that $100 range, given its really, really nice condition. If you were in lousy condition with good lens glass, but everything else was mediocre, closer to 60 to 70 on this, but I'm going to go ahead and say right around 100. All right, next up. Uh-oh. We've got a Canon Powershot A3100. Which is, I think, a 12 megapixel 4x optical zoom, kind of budget-oriented point-and-shoot digital camera that Canon released 12, 15 years ago. And it's missing the lens cover, so more than likely that got damaged at some point and the prior owner may have just removed it. There's no battery or anything in there. It uses the Canon NB8L battery, and I've got a few of those actually over here. Power's on. So what you're not going to get with this anymore is that lens cover protecting the lens glass. So the lens glass is always exposed. So missing that is going to definitely affect the value. We'll go over that in just a little bit. Let's just make sure that this camera is functional first. So we got lens moving in and out fine. Let's try taking a picture. And the flash fires. There's a little bit of dust beneath the LCD, and that's very common with the A3000, A3100 from my experience. And that's something I would just note in the listing itself. A little bit of wear around the edges. So this camera is functional. The lens glass itself looks good. It's just missing the lens cover. So you go from a camera that would have been worth maybe in the $70, $75 range to in the $35, $40 range. And that puts us just over our original purchase price of right around $750. So we're well on our way to getting to our target of $1,500. We got a red camera here. Kodak EasyShare C183. See this camera a lot. Budget-oriented AA powered 3x optical, 14 megapixel camera. This was a lot of people's first camera 10 or 15 years ago that are now grown-ups. Okay. It's got finish wear, quite a bit of finish wear to the LCD. Very common with Kodak EasyShares. Power's on, and it's got a broken LCD. And you can't see anything. It may take pictures fine, may not, but either way, given that this is only worth about $45 in good working condition, now we're at a value of $0. That's a bummer. So I'll put that in the broken pile. Can't let those things get you too down. It just happens. We've got a Nikon Coolpix S4000. Small, compact, I believe touchscreen with either a 2.7 or a 3-inch LCD. Looks maybe 2.7. Nikon ENL10 battery. And that's that same battery that if you've watched any of my prior videos, you see them all the time. Olympus and a few other Kodak made their own versions of the same battery. Lens is moving in and out well. Let's try taking a picture. Picture takes. Let's see if we can get that flash to fire. There we go. And autofocus is working. Lens glass looks good. So all of that looks good. The touchscreen is working well, as you can see. One of the early touchscreen cameras that Nikon had. So this camera in good working condition, you pair it with a charger and a memory card, you're looking at a value of right around $75 on this. All right, next up. Oh, wow. Oh, this is a throwback. Canon Powershot A200. Very early 2 megapixel digital camera. It's got a 5mm f2.8 lens with a little bit of digital zoom capability. It uses AA batteries and a compact flash card. Oh, those are really old. Okay, I'm going to take these batteries out. Where's the batteries going? Oh. Yeah, kind of unusual battery tray design. You've got that, which is, you'll see more often in waterproof cameras these days, is kind of a double lock. Then you've got the battery door. Hopefully this camera powers on. It actually doesn't power on from the top or the back. It powers on from the front. And you just push down on it. And it opens. It's got a tiny little lens in there. And it at least powers on. It does have some wear to the top and to the sides, as you can see, and LCD has wear as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit later when we look at value if this camera is working. So I'm going to go ahead and try taking a picture. What you'll see with these is there's a lot of buffer lag with the compact flash card whenever it's reading and writing. There's quite a bit of delay, and then when you actually takes the picture, there's shutter delay, shutter lag. Patience is a virtue. Wow, okay. Finally took. Takes a while. Maybe the flash to charge as well. It definitely takes a while. So this is a camera that you need to have a little patience with. It's one of Canon's first point-and-shoot digital cameras that was released 20 plus years ago now. And it's not a camera I see that often, actually. The current market in the used good condition with like a compact flash card is going to be right around $40 on the A200. Okay, what do we got in here? Let's do this one next. It looks like a Canon. If it looks like a Canon, it might be a Canon, and it is a Canon. Canon Powershot SX210. I see this camera quite a bit, along with its brothers and sisters, the SX230 and SX260, SX270, SX280. Pretty common camera. Does have a fair amount of wear. And some dings on the lens rim. Super common. The way they designed this lens rim, I'm not a big fan of. And I think that the lens cover is a little bit weak. So this is the main structural weak point of the entire camera. So oftentimes this can cause some issues with the lens actually extending and affecting the actual performance of the camera. So just something to look out for on this particular model. Uses the Canon NB5L battery. There's not a battery in there. I've got a bunch of NB5Ls over here. Let's turn it on. Power's on, the flash pops out. Glass looks decent. Lens glass scratch is super common with this model. And there's a little bit of dust inside, also common. Lens noise. The lens does move in and out fine though. Oh wow, there is a lot of dust visible in the actual pictures as you zoom in and out. You can kind of see right here and right there. There's two large specks. So that's probably dust inside of the sensor. And there's a few things that I'll try to get that taken care of. Most of the time it doesn't work. There's some vibration techniques you can do. Some people do complete camera teardowns to get the dust out of the sensor. But I don't have time to do that, unfortunately, and I found that the other techniques generally haven't resulted in much success. So this is a camera that in good working condition would have a value of around 80, but in parts condition, if it takes pictures but it's got the dust inside, it's only got a value of about 20 bucks. Okay, next up. I figured since it was prime basketball season, even though I'm not a huge basketball fan, kind of had to break out the U of A, University of Arizona Wildcats shirt, just to represent. Ooh, Nikon Coolpix B600 Brige camera. This is not a camera that I see that often. I've sold so many of the B500s over the years, over 100 actually. But the B600 I've only seen a handful of times. Normally it kind of went from the B500, of course, to the B600, then to the B700, which I've seen more of than the B600. So this is a really cool camera, 60x optical. So assuming we can get this to power on and work, I'll show you what the zoom range looks like. It's pretty incredible. And it uses the Nikon ENL12 battery. There is actually a memory card in there. What size we got? 32? 128. Oh my. It's unusual. I think I've got an ENL12 in there. My face is in the flower. Am I pollinating the flower? Got a replacement ENL12 battery here. Looks to be in really nice shape. Lens glass looks excellent. So I'm hopeful. Power's on. And let's see what that zoom looks like. A little bit of noise. So really, really good range there. Great camera to have for sports or anywhere you're really far away from your subject and you don't have a DSLR camera, or you need something that's a little bit more portable, or it's a little more cost effective. Excellent for birding too. Okay, flash fires, that looks great. If you paired this camera with a charger and a memory card and potentially a USB cable, you're looking at a value of around $175 in the used marketplace for a camera like this in really good shape. That will get us to just shy of $1,100 in projected value, and we have approximately 1, 2, 3 cameras left. Yikes. Hopefully. I don't think this one will get us there though. Olympus FE340. This is a very compact little point-and-shoot camera released by Olympus 15 plus years ago. 8 megapixels, 5x optical zoom. Uses the Olympus Li42 battery, which is actually the same battery as that Nikon we were looking at before. Power's on. Menu looks good. Uh-oh. We have a purple flickering LCD. Let me try taking a picture and see if it's... And we have a picture with a bunch of horizontal lines in it. So they're actually affecting the picture. Maybe there's some sort of sensor issue. But unfortunately, this camera is not in working condition. And once you've got the sensor going bad or the sensor bad, there's not much you can do in a camera like this. So unfortunately, no value in this. If this was in good working shape, it'd have a value of around 40 bucks. Nikon Coolpix S4100. I've sold a lot of these. It is a 14 megapixel 5x zoom camera. Uses the Nikon ENL19 battery. Takes good pictures. Very popular. No charge in that one. Let's try this one. Sometimes with the older Nikon point-and-shoot digital cameras, you have to patiently tap the on-off a few times, get that green little light to pop on. But that is not working. And both of these ENL19s are charged. This camera appears to be dead. Physically, it looks to be in pretty good shape, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on with it. Oh, there's a crack internally. I'm not going to be able to show it on the screen, but you can see discoloration and some spacing in here, so there is some sort of internal crack. So potential drop at some point, water damage, I have no idea, but this camera is not powering on, so no value on this either. Yikes. We're down to one camera, and we're at just shy of $1,100 by my calculations. This has got to be worth around $400 to get to that target. What do we got? It's a DSLR. We've got a Rebel T3i with the 18 to 55 millimeter lens. Very popular DSLR camera. I believe 18 megapixels. This was a camera that I used a lot when it originally came out. And I used it with a 50 millimeter 1.4 portrait lens that is closer to 70 or 80 millimeters with this crop sensor. But I really loved shooting with that. And it takes good pictures. Video is certainly lacking, in my opinion. And I'm not a huge fan of shooting in live view with this camera, so I mainly use the viewfinder. But let's find a LPE8 battery and see if we can get this camera to work. Got one here. And this is known as the 600D in Europe. We got power. And let's see if we can get the lens autofocus to work. Ooh, yeah. Flash pops. Flash fires. That's looking great. That looks really, really nice. Okay, let's go ahead and turn it off and let's look at everything a little bit closer. Glass looks good, just needs a little cleaning. So lens looks nice and autofocus is crisp. That looks good. Let's look through the focus screen. Not seeing any dust really at all. That looks great. Articulating hinges working well. So I do like to do a little bit of testing, and I'll do some more testing on some of this other stuff off camera. Just trying to get everything into a video that's of manageable length. And as always, I super appreciate everyone that sticks around to watch my videos. I really enjoy making these, and I really love the support that you have shown me through the last year of making videos like this. Leave a comment down below on what the favorite picture you've ever taken with a camera is. And if you remember what camera you shot it with. For me, my favorite is probably a picture I took of my youngest son and my wife with an amazing sunset in the background with a Canon EOS 6D and an 85 millimeter lens. It's still one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken to this day. So I'd love to hear what yours is. Let's get back to this camera. The T3i value is going to be right around $185 if you pair it with a charger and a USB cable. And I show us at a final number of right around $1,280. So we are well short of that $1,500 target. We'll still make a small profit, but once you factor in my time and the expenses of listing and selling these items, it's only a couple $100. So this was not a big win, but sometimes we got boxes like that. I really appreciate it once again. If you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe if you're so inclined. That way you'll be notified whenever I post new videos. As always, get out there, have some fun, make some memories.